right. Good morning, everybody. So lovely to be online with everybody this morning. As I'm expecting a couple of more folks to be coming in at the top of the hour so far. But great to have everybody online with us today, and I really look forward to spending some time with yourself and my guests, Nadia Veeran-Patel from LRMG, our CISO. And of course, Sanjiv Sharma from the EC Council, where he's the Director of Business for Africa. So, Sanjiv, nice for you to be joining us today from a rather cold India, as I believe. So, so great that you are online with us.
And thank you, Gavin. It's always a pleasure connecting with you, and it's my extreme pleasure and honor to be here today.
That's awesome, Nadia. Let's hear from you.
Morning, Gav. Morning, Sanjiv. Thank you so much, Gav. Yeah, I'm excited. A little bit nervous, but excited. Thank you.
Awesome. It's always great to partner with you both on these events. So thanks so much. I'm going to kick off, everybody. We've got a good level of attendance from around the country and across Africa, and across the globe, in fact. So we've got some international guests joining us. So a warm welcome to you all from wherever you're joining us across this beautiful world of ours. I do encourage you to keep popping on in the chat where you're joining from. We've got people from KZN, from Johannesburg, the South Coast. Awesome. So great to see everybody joining us on the webinar this morning. So as I've done, I've introduced the panelists today, and we're going to get right into the heart of the conversation. We've all heard about cybersecurity. We all know that it's a big ticket issue, but to both of you, Sanjiv and Nadia, and perhaps Nadia, let's hear from you first to answer the first question for the panel today, to say, what is the business issue keeping CIOs awake at night in the context of cybersecurity?
Yeah, thanks, Gav. I think it's a tough one. We're always behind. We're always 5 steps behind. We're not even 2 steps behind, like the song says. And I think hackers and the threat landscape has just gotten so vast with the amount of connection and connectivity we have to the world right now. So I think that's always going to be top priorities. How do we put ourselves in the forefront of this? And are we ever going to get to that position? So I know a lot of it keeps us up at night is not being able to protect the organization 100% all the time. And that's always scary.
Cool. Thanks, Nadia. Yeah, the word you use, this vastness of the threat landscape is ever growing. And as soon as we feel that we're making progress, the threat landscape just expands. Sanjiv, let's hear from you. What do you believe is keeping CIOs awake at night?
Yeah, thanks, Gavin. The cyber skills and talent shortage continues to widen at an alarming rate. So while every day technology is changing, the nature of the threat landscape is changing. Even if you have some people who are skilled, there are newer skills which are required, and it has to have an ongoing training and ongoing requirement for professionals to address those challenges. While we have all kinds of organizations, the smaller organizations, they are limited by revenue. So either they say that they don't have the enough resources and revenues to put in the dollars to train people and to get the skilled manpower, or they are unsure whether they internally have the skills which are needed to meet their cyber objectives. So this is a tussle which is going on a daily basis, and that's what I think keeps them up all the time, how to strike a balance between the revenues and the skills and the people which are required.
Awesome. So what I'm hearing, this idea of this constant upskilling, this need to stay ahead of the game in an ever-changing landscape of threat and of detection, and of making sure that we've got the requisite people power to ultimately handle this. So, ladies and gentlemen, you're going to hear a lot from the panelists today, but we also want to hear a lot from you, our worthy guests. So I'm going to encourage you to pop whatever questions you want to pose to the panelists. You know, those really tough questions that you've been waiting to ask. I know Nadia and Sanjiv are amped to be able to reply to those. So please pop them in the chat as we go. We've got a team on board that will harvest those. And at the end of the session, we'll come online and hopefully answer some of those tough questions, those big, hard questions that you've always wanted the answers to about how do we deal with this ever-expanding landscape of threat in the cybersecurity context. But as part of that, let's hear your voice for starters. I want to ask my team just to pop up the first poll of the day, and let's get you engaged. So the question is, who's responsible for cybersecurity? Is it the CIO? Is it the Exco team? Is it a cybersecurity team? Is it me? Are you unsure? Is it everybody? Who's ultimately responsible for cybersecurity?
Looking forward to
we're going to give that a few minutes, so please feel free to log your responses in there, and we'll give it a few more minutes, well, a few more seconds, maybe not minutes, and let's close it out in half a minute's time, and let's see the results pop up. So the surprising answer is everybody's responsible for cybersecurity, with 64% of you saying I'm in it. 11%, 18% saying it's the cybersecurity team's responsibility, and 11% saying ultimately it's the CIO or the CISO's responsibility. So great. Let's see how that pans out as we go through the course of the day. Nadia, let's come to you with the first question around this idea of operationalizing cybersecurity. How can organizations move beyond this traditional approach to cybersecurity and become somewhat more proactive in their defense strategies?
Thanks, Gav. Yeah, I actually not surprised, and I'm glad that the answer was everyone, because that is the answer. It is everybody's responsibility. Yes, the cybersecurity team is there, and as the CEO and the CIO, we all got to be responsible. But I think there's accountability that needs to come from their side, and everybody else is responsible for cyber and for security. You got to think about, when someone enters your building, you got to know who and why coming in, whether you are the CEO or the janitor or the person that's allowing them into the door. Same works with your processes inside of your organization. So operationalizing cybersecurity it's not a tough strategy. It's actually a pretty simple one. It's going into your business and saying, hey, everybody, you need to look up and you need to say, let us know what your security concerns are. And this is how we would work when we go into an organization and we'd say, or I would go into an organization and I'd say, okay, so what are your risks? Where are you sitting at the moment? And if you don't even know that, that's a great place to start. Knowing where your risks are and what you have inside your organization as business critical information assets is probably some of the biggest tick boxes that you can check right at the beginning, because you know how and what to protect right from the start. And going forward, it's involving everybody in that process, because if people know why you're trying to protect it and what the possible threats are to those organizational assets, it makes everybody open up, sit up and say, okay, I'm invested in this. I'm going to do this with the cybersecurity team. And I think that's the best way forward, is we no longer are pointing fingers and saying, hey guys, it's our responsibility. No, we won't know about the risks unless you tell us.
Great. So this idea of everybody's in the game together, it's not an individual sport. It's a team sport. We're all in it. We're all functionally the weakest link in that cybersecurity chain, right? So we've all got to play our critical part. Now, talk to us a little bit about what have you seen at LRMG, in particular, in terms of how you've gone about implementing the security strategy within LRMG.
Yeah, so it was a fun exercise, wasn't it, Gav? I know you were part of it as well. Is when we started those risk registers and we started the risk process, it was a lot of uncertainty, which was normal. And I think being the first information security officer at LRMG was also an eye opener for me, because you've got to have and take a little level of zero trust to say, okay, we know that things are in place, but are they really? Are they working the way they should? And when we went into LRMG and I took a proactive approach to say, hey, everybody, how are you working? What are you doing in your job? What do you see as the risk? And when I spoke to the likes of you guys, the senior management team, you get one version. And then I took a different approach and I said, let me speak to the teams that work underneath the senior management team. And that was a different approach. And that was a different outlook, right? Because those people will see the risks that they're dealing with. So every day that the processes and the policies and processes and the procedures that they're working with has different risks. So someone in finance might see that there's no segregation of duties, for example, whereas the HR director won't see that. So there's always those levels of visibility that you need to drill into. And you only see that if you go further into the organization. So I had chats with everybody. And what was nice is we started having master classes. Well, we can call it that, right? Where everybody got involved, very much similar to this, but it was an interactive session, asking questions. Why is this happening? Why do we need security? Why are you blocking us from doing certain things? And that's a different approach as well, is we need to start saying, I'm not going to block you from doing everything. I'm going to say, caution, maybe you shouldn't do it this way. There's a secure way and a better way to do it. And I think that's a better approach. And that seemed to work within LRMG. Everybody is so great when it comes to, spotting phishing emails and risks and, things that should be happening. I mean, Gav, you're laughing. I was in a meeting one day and I remember distinctly towards the end of November, you popped me a message to say, Nads, I think this is suspicious. And, that's great for me because you're doing my job. You helping me and we're enabling our business, and hashtag stronger together, right?
Hashtag stronger together, indeed. So we've established really that, let's say it, cybersecurity is everybody's responsibility. So, we don't need to delve into that. But I suppose the follow-on question is, how do we get the entire organization involved in security and to learn to live it? You mentioned the opportunity that I had. I looked at this email and I was saying, something's wrong here. It just doesn't feel right. Why would this supposed trusted client be asking me for this type of information? Just didn't feel right. And in the end, we realized that it was, in fact, an attempt at a hack. So we get that. But how do we get the whole organization geared around this cybersecurity concept?
Practice, practice, practice. We keep going, right? We never stop. It's this ever-changing landscape, so we have to continuously learn. So that means if we're learning, we've got to be teaching you guys. We hold all the cards, right? So I realized when I started talking to a lot of other CISOs and security people, is we have our own language. We start talking this language that nobody understands. And then you sit there and you think to yourself, but if everybody had the same information, wouldn't it be such a more cautious or cautionary tale rather than, everybody's getting hacked left, right, and center? Because let's be honest, you mentioned it already. Yes, our users and our people and our employees are probably our weakest link, but they don't need to be. They can be your strongest link. They can be the people that come back and say, hey, I actually can recognize something's not right here. So it's really going in and continuously making that awareness stick. It's that upskilling. It's that saying, hey, when I've learned something in our landscape is different, let's have transparency. If we encounter an attack, for example, or a hack or an attempted one, let's have the conversation with our employees. Let's say, guys, this actually happened, because we have these blindfolds on a lot of the time, and we think it's always happening in first world countries like the UK and America and Europe and everything else. But no, it's happening right here. And if we show you how many cyber attacks we're facing every single day, you'd be scared, and that's the thing, is visibility and transparency is everything. Everybody would be so much better off if they knew exactly what is happening to them.
Yeah, so awesome. So I'm hearing this idea of, a couple of things that are coming up as themes, really. This idea of clarity, of awareness, of visibility, and lifting the threat landscape to us, which means, I suppose, we need to be quite resilient as business today, across the board, to being attacked. You know, we know, I know you showed me, you know, a graphic of where the attacks are coming from at one day, and I was astounded by it, absolutely astounded. So this idea of cyber resilience becomes quite apparent. And perhaps it's opportune for us to hear your voices again as the delegates on screen. And let's pop up the next poll, where we're going to talk a little bit about this concept of cyber resilience. So what does cyber resilience mean to you? There's a single choice. There's only one right answer. Or maybe there's two, but there's one right answer we're looking at. Do we need to throw more money at resources to secure my organization? Do we need to secure my organization from cyber attacks, securing that? Do we know how to respond and recover from a cyber attack? Or is it about having contingencies for business continuity in place of a cyber attack? So what is cyber resilience? What does it mean to you? And we'll give it another half a minute, and then we'll ask the team to pop up the answers, and we'll come to you, Nadia, to talk about what is the right answer, and more importantly, what can you tell us about being a cyber resilient organization? Thanks, guys. Let's pop up those results. So great. So what we're seeing is it's not about throwing more money at it, and majority of the audience saying it is about contingencies for business continuity in place when we do have a cyber attack, and then next followed up with knowing how to respond. So it's one thing to say we've got the contingencies in place, but how do we respond? Nadia, talk to us about this idea of a cyber resilient organization.
So I love the answers. I love that so many people are so super aware, Gav, and that means that something somewhere is going right? Because you can have all the technologies in the world. You can throw so much of money at this. You can throw so many people at it. But at the end of the day, you are never going to prevent a hack from happening. You're never going to prevent it from actually coming to fruition. So what are the things that you need to do is make sure that your company and your people are aware of how and when to respond to a cyber attack. That is super crucial. But I love the answers: business continuity, contingency, because at the end of the day, even though you know how to respond and recover, if you don't have contingencies in place, let's say you've got worst case scenario, and I hate worst case scenario, got wiped out, you know, that's a situation no one ever wants to be in. And someone always asks me or says to me, backups are similar to disaster recovery. No, it's not. It's completely different, you know. And if you have your entire estate taken down, do you know where your disaster recovery is going to? Do you know how to bring it up? Do you know where to bring it up? Do you know who's going to be in charge of that? Do you know how long it's going to take you? So those are the things you need to really, really consider. And there's a team of people. And those people are not just the cybersecurity team. Neither is it the IT team. Everybody in your organization. It's got to look at things like your CEO and your senior board, as well as your exco team, needs to know exactly what's happening, how they were going to respond. If the media gets involved, and you know, goodness forbid, but you know, law enforcement and the information regulator, how do you respond to those type of questions? And then, of course, you'd have to bring in your HR, the likes of your HR. You have to inform the people inside of your organization. How does your comms go out? So your marketing, your PR team. There's a whole list and host of things that need to happen in the background for all of these things to make sure that you know what the action plan is and how to execute it. And that is crucial. So having an incident response plan, having an incident response team, making sure that your senior management is involved, as well as everybody else, and you just start locking those things down and making sure that you test continuously. That's what makes you cyber resilient.
No, thanks, Nadia. And you know, I heard recently of he happens to be my golf partner, and their company was hacked, and they were down, and email was down, and stuff like that. And it was interesting as I was listening to him tell the story as to how they were not responding, as opposed to how they should have been responding. And you've raised up a couple of things of saying, it's not just about how the cybersecurity team respond to getting the estate back up and running, but it's how the collective business responds to this attack and to responding. There's a PR angle to it because your customers are out there and they isolated. So, it must be that there are other companies out there that have successfully helped them convert this into a cyber awareness workforce. Tell us a little bit about that.
So, I mean, Gav, look at things like, or hacks like, we won't even go as far as we could say the Uber hack recently, Experian, TransUnion, all of these hacks that have happened, right? What was damaging is that they didn't know how to respond. So the communications out to the world was so bad. Like, look at Experian, for example. They didn't tell us 55 million records. That's not chump change. That's a lot, right? And what data was really exposed? How vulnerable are we? What can we do? They should have given us all of this information. That for me is reputation damage, right? Because do we have trust? Do we put trust in that organization again? And it's not about the hack. It's not about them taking the information, because we know that's happening all the time. But tell us how we can go about protecting ourselves after it's happened. So what could we have done? Do we need to go change passwords? Do we need to go verify details? Do we need to go to our banks and make sure that we don't have new accounts opened on behalf of our names and our identity stolen? All of those things could have been crucial points that any of these guys could have used. And that's so important, because at the end of the day, you want to be as proactive as possible, but you also want to be protecting of your image. So as a company, you don't want to only know, or your people to know what's going on, but you want the statement that goes out to the people that's affected, as well as the media, to be really cohesive and really, really informative. And I think that's so crucial.
Yeah, awesome. It is about being a public image and protecting not only, your brand image and your brand position, but protecting the invaluable data that you have access to on behalf of your customers. A critical part of this whole cybersecurity response team to the resilience and to the plan. I see there's a number of questions popping up, and we're certainly going to look to tackle some of these. I don't see any of those impossibly difficult questions yet. So you guys can brace yourself. But Sanjiv, let's come over to you and let's talk about increasing the cybersecurity team without adding any additional overhead. So we've talked about it's everybody's responsibility. So what strategies can be employed to exponentially increase the cyber team's effectiveness without a direct and proportional increase in personnel?
So it's primarily about skilling your existing workforce. And even before we go there, it's more about creating awareness. So while you talked about it's everybody's responsibility, we also saw the response in terms of cyber resilience from the poll that everybody said, while there should be the technologies and tools in place, it's also about how do you respond and how do you looking at all of that, and it just kind of supports the fact that you have to make everybody aware of the vulnerabilities. And so if you look at most of the organizations, it's not the management which is unaware. It's not the IT team. The vulnerability lies at the entry level, and that's where people are not, they don't even know that there's going to be such a phishing, wishing, or smishing campaign which is going to come. Now let me take an example. We did a campaign through one of the platforms which we have. It's around awareness, and in that, we just floated a campaign. A mail went off where we said there is some freebie which is coming your way. And if you just fill in the form and given the details, you stand to gain from that. 80% or just over 80% of people gave away their email ID and password. right? That it's because the people are not aware. Okay. And the next day, the same CISO who was saying we have everything in place came back to us saying, okay, now how do I do these campaigns? And, that's what's required. So it's not just about hiring more people. It's about first working with the people you have. And what all do you need to do over there? So you need to start with creating awareness. Then you need to look at, okay, so because most organization, it's the IT team and the cyber team is synonymous. It's not the case. That's not the case. Okay, the IT team's got a different job to do. The cybersecurity, you have a different job to do and different things to look at. So to answer your question, it's about creating more awareness, uh, looking at the existing staff and seeing, okay, who's got the skill set, who can be upskilled, and then looking at, do we need more people and get them in.
Awesome. So again, this idea of awareness, what I really liked what you said there, you used the word was work with the team you've got, because that's where the vulnerability and the solution lies, is what I'm hearing from you. So you spoke about the skills gaps. What are you seeing are the critical skills gaps in cybersecurity today, and how can these be addressed, Sanjiv?
Okay, so the skill gaps are there in multiple domains. It could be in technical proficiency, it could be in operations, it could be in risk management, compliance, security analytics, data analysis, soft skills. The gaps are there in all of these domains. So, and they are basically influenced, like I talked earlier, about the ever-evolving nature of technology, ever-evolving threats, and the increasing complexity of the cyber attacks. So there's always going to be a gap because the cyber criminals are a step ahead always. Okay. Let me give you an example. And Nadia, maybe you can come in on this also. What I know is most of the data which has been secured by organizations for a long period has been in bits, and these cyber criminals now they are working on qubits. So the way they are able to crack a particular organization is far faster than how the organizations have actually stored or secured their data. So you're always going to be outpaced. So there is a gap, and the gap is by training, and gap is by skilling, and the gap is by how do you fill those gaps is by training those people, skilling those people, and getting the right people in place at the right time. So the gaps are enormous. How do you fill those gaps? Like I said, you need to have comprehensive education training programs, which cover the wide variety of all. I just talked about the technical skills, risk management, compliance, soft skills, all of that. And there needs to be a continuous learning and professional. It's not just you do one-time training and that's over. No, it has to be continuous and cross-disciplinary. It cannot just be in one particular thing. And more than that, it also needs to be having some apprenticeship programs and mentorship programs involved. So that, you always have a fresh set of people whom you are training, because again, Nadia will tell you, the attrition rate is very high. And the moment you have people who are very skilled, and you need them, then they are also required by somebody else. So I know for a fact in South Africa, there are a lot of banks and telcos who had a lot of good people in cybersecurity, and they were taken away either in the US or Europe or any other countries, and they left the country, and which creates the need for having more people. So if you have these internship programs and if you have those mentorship programs going on, you have a continuous supply of people coming to you all the time. So that's how you need to continue to work and fill those gaps.
Awesome. Nadia?
Yeah, so I think I totally agree with everything Sanj said. And Sanj, at the end of the day, we as the cybersecurity people, we have to start thinking like the hackers, right? We do. We have to look for all of those gaps, all of those holes. A lot of the time, I always think to myself, did I go into the wrong side of business, Gav? Could have been so lucrative on the other side, you know. But you know, it's your ethical responsibility, I think, for you to go in and see those pitfalls, see those gaps, see those, and then show your people how to look for those same things, you know, where those gaps lie and how do we close them. And if we can't close them, what's the risk if they're exposed? Once we know that, we can also put in contingency. If it was exposed, if we had that vulnerability, you know, realized, what then? What is this going to cost us? Because that also makes a difference, Gab.
Yeah. And I suppose the realization of understanding what is that risk element, to your point of, if this happens, what does it cost us? And then to your response, Sanjiv, of this idea of having apprenticeship programs and so forth in place, brings me to my next question. And perhaps there are aspirant students on this call with us today that are saying, I'm looking for a career in cybersecurity. Where do I start? What would your advice be to an aspiring student if she wanted to start a career in cybersecurity? Where should she start?
So first of all, is that they should be looking at some foundational knowledge. Okay. And when I'm saying about foundational knowledge, it's about finding out what is it exactly that they want to do. Okay. And they should look at the interest and the aptitude before even getting into the courses. It is important for them to assess their interest in that there are different areas in cybersecurity. It's not just one. So you have the VAPT track, you have the incident handling response track, you have the network defense, you have application security. So you need to look at what interests you. And once you've identified, then also look at, you need to have a very, very basic understanding of computers and networks. So if you don't have that, you first go back to getting the basics right. You need to then research into those fields. What does that field do? Where will it take me in that career? Choose a starting point for the knowledge and the interest that the student, which will align with their goals in terms of what is it that they finally want to do. And then pick up a course which can take them on that journey, prepare for that, get certified, get a lot of hands-on practice on that. Because practice, like Nadia was mentioning earlier, it's about practice, test. So there are a lot of lab environments there available, both online and offline, where it's like actually dealing with the threats and dealing with all the cybercrime which is there outside. There are a lot of CTFs, for example, which they can do, and there are a lot of hackathons you can get into. So do a lot of hands-on practice, networking, getting into the community, knowing more about it, knowing exactly what's happening, and then you keep updated, get the real-world experience, and like I mentioned earlier, soft skills, very, very important. So it's not just about catering to the threats. It's not just about getting certified. It's also about then when something happens, how do you respond to it? How do you communicate? So all those skills are required. So if there's anybody aspiring to do that, you start with identifying whether this is the right thing for you, then to do some research, get into those courses, get certified, get a lot of experience, and then make a good career in that. Because if you look at it today, there are 3.5 billion jobs, million jobs, which are available in cybersecurity space, and there aren't people who are there for that job. So as a career, it's something which is definitely going to be there for a very long time. Unlike many other people who say, all our jobs are going to go because AI is here. So no, that's not happening. So they can really look forward to making a career in cybersecurity.
Yeah. And what AI brings us, on the contrary, is different jobs.
Exactly.
So are we
Yes.
prepared for the different jobs that AI is going to bring? And cybersecurity is not going away. The protection, unfortunately, the cyber criminals are not going away. And therefore, it's going to be an ever demanding job, and an ever demanding and ever evolving, quite an exciting space to play. I'd really hope to be able to have some graduates that we put through a program a couple of years ago on the call with us today. They just couldn't make it, but some of them were telling us the stories about how they, and essentially what I'm hearing from you as well, Sanjiv, is this idea of building blocks, of starting at the bottom, becoming aware, perhaps starting with the base technology certification before actually going into cybersecurity. Do I know enough about computers in the world of networks and so forth, and becoming aware of that? And ultimately, these youngsters graduated with a cybersecurity certification behind their name, and enabled them to become employable. And both of the two that we identified out of the lot became fully employable at one of our prestigious healthcare clients, and have gone on into their careers of making progress. But what they both said is that this was the launch pad, having done the learnership with us. But what actually happened that really made it come alive was the ongoing education that they were able to get access to. And so the criticality of these programs of making sure that we constantly are doing more to stay ahead of these ever-growing threats that we know we are faced with.
Sorry, I'd like to add something over here, just because you mentioned this employability thing. I know today South Africa in particular is struggling with the employment rate. And so there are almost around 60% unemployed youth. And this is one career path where you don't have enough people. So and there's a huge gap in what these students are learning in the universities and the degrees which they are taking, and what the industry actually wants. So this is one stream of field. If they pursue this, then that gap can be filled, and they can really make a good career for themselves.
Absolutely, Sanjiv. Yeah, go for it, Nadia.
Yeah, don't mind me jumping in. And I love everything that Sanjiv said, because one of my mentees is actually on the call today. And she is, hey, Sharon, sorry for putting you in the spotlight. You don't have to jump on or say anything. But when she came to me, she's in software, right? And development, testing, all of that, and applications. And there's so much of scope. There's so much of scope for someone in an existing job that you don't even realize that you're working in, and that she could move simply, quickly into DevSecOps, and it's just that upskilling, finding someone to direct you. And, this, Sharon's going to laugh because she was advised to go into GRC. And I don't know if it's people advising because we females will do better, or what was the advice there, but she's great technically. She's so good. And I said to her, stay away from, GRC. You don't need to do it. And there's so much potential. And we just need to recognize that we need to flip it on its head and say, you already got experience in your current job. You already got the skills. Now let's just tap into that. Let's advance your skills. And like Sanjiv said, let's build those foundation blocks. Let's build that get the certifications that you need just to sneak in the door and get you started. So I think a lot of people have that base experience already. We just need to tap into it.
Yeah, that's absolutely great, and great to have Sharon with us today on the call. So hope you're enjoying the chat, Sharon, and shout out to you for having an awesome mentor like Nadia. Which brings me to the next question. You spoke about this diverse range of individuals we need in cybersecurity careers. Sanjiv, what strategies can companies employ to attract more diverse range of employees into the security space?
So now, so this is a completely a very, very interesting thing. So what to attract more diverse range of individuals, it requires a lot of intentional efforts and strategies to create an inclusive and a very welcoming environment. And it's not just in the cybersecurity space, and I'm talking in general, anywhere in any workspace. So this would probably involve early education and outreach to start promoting cybersecurity awareness and education at an early age by engaging with schools, community organization, youth programs, introduce cybersecurity concepts through interactive workshops, competitions. I talked about CTFs, a lot of educational initiatives aimed at students from diverse backgrounds, and basically address biases and stereotypes. So you need to challenge the stereotypes and biases about who can pursue a career in cyber. Everybody can pursue a career in. There are no biases or stereotypes over here. So you highlight role models over here. So, for example, I'm involved in one of the programs where we are having girls from all over Africa who apply for a particular program. This is in Nigeria, and this is a Cyber Girls program, and those girls are just rocking it right now. So if there's anybody who's saying girls can't do it, they're probably better at it. So we have to address all the stereotypes and biases. Yeah, Nadia's there. You can see, so and you have to make the education and training more accessible, and cybersecurity education training programs to individuals from diverse socioeconomic backgrounds. So I know, and I have been working on a lot of programs where the government is funding a lot of programs around cybersecurity awareness, and at a very entry point level, where they can work the essentials in cybersecurity, and even at a very technician level. That's the entry point level. So governments are spending a lot of money over there. So to make it more accessible, I talked about mentorship, support networks, having inclusive hiring practices to recruit candidates from diverse backgrounds. You have some targeted outreach to include certain sections of the community, provide professional development growth opportunities to people who are really good at it, and irrespective of their background or where they're coming from, and foster a very supportive workplace culture. So, like I said, this is not just about cybersecurity, it's about inclusiveness and about having a more diverse range of individuals in an organization per se. But yes, given the fact that cybersecurity is here to stay, and people can really aspire to get into it, irrespective of where they come from and what background they are from.
Awesome. So it's not, not just, or despite rather the biases that may exist, what we're hearing is cybersecurity is open for everybody. And it's
Absolutely.
certainly not an isolated approach. And as you say, you've got Nadia putting up her hand and Sharon on the call, and many others, I'm sure, that are also on the call that are from diverse backgrounds. So let's adopt this. Let's take on the opportunity to address one of the critical issues facing not only South Africa, but the rest of Africa, is this massive youth unemployment issue, which is a big ticket item. You've got a big threat in cybersecurity. You've got a big pool of resources that are potentially available to you to really form part of an upskilling process. I'm sure there's funding available. You spoke about government funding. There's other NGOs. There's other funding opportunities to look to engage in programs to upskill and educate unemployed youth today. We've also got a very conducive environment within the South African context, and I'm sure in other African countries as well. There's this absolute conducive environment to make it a possibility for people to get out of the cycle of poverty that they're in and gain meaningful employment in a high demand area of business, which is cybersecurity. I'm conscious of time and I want to get to your questions, but I want to go to your last question for the time being, Sanjiv. And many on the call would have heard of certified ethical hacker. I know the first time I heard about it, I was like, what, ethical hacking? I mean, is that even a thing? But clearly it is, and it's something that we certainly practice quite extensively in our own business. What other courses can students pursue to make a career in cybersecurity domain? You've mentioned a couple of others, but let's get down to some specific. What else is available to them, and particularly, that's gonna help them make progress in their space.
Okay, so you're absolutely right. EC Council has been considered very synonymous only with CEH and not anything else. But that's not what EC Council is all about. EC Council, like I said, we do a lot of awareness programs. So we have a completely different program around AWARE, and that's more towards enterprises and governments. How do they make each and every employee aware of what are the threats? How do you safeguard yourselves against it? What are the do's and don'ts? You at a individual level, department level, division level, location level, you can identify who are the guys who are more at risk, and then you put in a program for them, and then you put them through a training. And this is not a one-time activity. It happens around the year and continuously, because maybe once a guy didn't click on that link, but next time they become vulnerable again. So how do you continuously keep looking at that? So that's something which we have, this awareness. In terms of the courses, it starts with very elementary courses around essentials of network defense, ethical hacking, digital forensics, to the technician level where we have a certified cybersecurity technician. Then you have the core. The core is ethical hacking and network defense. So, which is the CEH, which you talked about. Now, ethical hacking is incomplete without network defense and vice versa. So if you need to know how to defend, you also need to know how to attack. And so many a times people just say, okay, I'll do a CH and I'm done. No, you also need to then know, how do you defend? It's not just about getting in and attacking and seeing the vulnerabilities. It's also about then, once you've done that, how do you secure your system? So both of them are very important. The red team and the blue team. You need to get into both of them. Then is when you get into the specializations, and there is where your VAPT track comes in. So you get into pen testing. You get into the web app hacking, the cloud. So cloud security, threat intelligence. So that's in the network defense, where you get into the SOC analyst, and then finally getting into incident handling and response. So you get into the forensics, incident handling, and disaster recovery. And finally, then you get into application security. Now there, it's huge. You have Java-based, .NET-based, Linux-based systems. So you look at how do you get into all of that. And then Nadia talk about the DevSecOps. So you had DevOps, and now you put security in that. So the system in itself kind of protects the organization. It kind of predicts what kind of attacks you can be confronted with, and how do you protect yourself. So it's not just about CEH. And finally, you reach the level which Nadia is at. That's the CISO level. So you have courses from beginning to the end. So all these courses which one can do.
Awesome. Thanks, Sanjiv. So again, my idea of the building blocks, if you think of a Lego house that you're building, you've got to start with the foundations, and you've got to build it up until you put on the roof and perhaps the chimney and become the CISO. It's all available. It's there. It's a question of leaning to the process, and we've got it available, and it's flexible, it's agile, and it's on point. So Nadia and Sanjiv, it's time for those tough questions. So I've got a couple of questions that have come through from the audience. I just want to go into them, break them up. So first question came from Mickey, who's saying, what about those working from home? How do you manage the risk of people working from home? Nadia, do you want to take that one?
I can, thanks, Gav. Yeah, because 80% of our organization is remote working, right? I mean, you and I are both sitting at home in our shorts now, but it is a problem, Mickey. I mean, and for me, one of the biggest problems is what is happening with our data. Can I see what's happening? Can I see how people are using it? How are they using it? Where are they sending it? How are they sending it? Is it secure? And because we deal with a lot of other companies' data, that became really crucial for me. So I think knowing what your people are doing, their network that they're working from, is it secure? So the things that I did specifically was look at data management and data, protection and privacy, and implemented a DLP tool, for example. But that's just going into or data loss prevention. Sorry for using acronyms; it's terrible. But it's making sure that we know what's happening with our data in our organization, because that was critical for us. And then also, making sure that my people are connecting to secure networks, Wi-Fi's, all of that. We all working from different places. So I also implemented a zero trust kind of network and a secure access software solution. So that also helped to protect our people wherever they are, no matter where they are in the world, because we have people sitting in Australia. So yeah.
That's it. And we are a global business. And so we have people sitting across the globe, and we need to protect everybody and everything. To the next question, and I'm going to just go up. One of the questions coming from Tamishka Naidu, saying, how can leadership, including the CEOs, play a more active role in fostering a cybersecurity conscious culture throughout the entire organization? Sanjiv, do you want to pick that one up?
I think I already talked a lot about it. It's the cybersecurity is not just the CEO's job or the CISO's job. So what they need to do as a leader is to have an all-inclusive program wherein everybody is first made aware of what to look out for, and then for them, like I said, to have programs wherein you have a constant supply of the relevant people and a constant program where you can identify and skill people at various levels. So and at the same point of time, from a more technical point of view, to have the right systems and checks in place so that the organization is secure.
Right, and it comes back to that the A word that I've heard so much about today. It's awareness. So bringing it to the awareness of the CEO of what his or her role is in making sure that ultimately you're protecting the business. The next question comes from an old friend, Tabela Mochema. Tabela, lovely to have you on the call with us. A long time that since we last connected. Would you recommend to share the threat landscape to the whole organization, or why do CISOs keep this information secret? Nadia, you want to come online and answer Tabela's question?
Yeah, I think it is a challenge that I have as well, is why everybody keeps it a big secret, because it's not. We need to be more transparent, and I think we did chat about that already, that visibility needs to be there, right? And your threat landscape for your organization could look like one thing, and the threat landscape globally could look something else, So why not share those things? Why not show people that it's happening? And I don't think it should be kept a secret. So challenge your CISO and ask them what's the reason why they are keeping it a secret, because they shouldn't. Challenge.
Awesome. Challenge and open up, because if we don't know what the threat is, we don't know how to protect ourselves.
Absolutely.
And, Sanjiv, you raised it just now. You said we need the attack team and we need the defense team. You sounded a little bit for me like our Springbok rugby coach, because, and within the Springbok rugby team, there's an attack coach and there's a defense coach. And so they're specialists in their own areas. Is how do we know that we've got the right people that are on attack and we've got the right strategies to defend when those All Blacks or English rugby players are running at us at pace and attacking our lines? So how do we know we've got the right people on the team? Tristan Dahl's question has come to us and says, vendors and their technologies are obviously growing at a rapid rate. How do CISOs slash CIOs, decide on a solution for their organization when they're so spoiled for choice?
Hey, Tristan. I know Tristan. So that is a tricky one, right? Because so many solutions have so many similarities as well. I'll be honest with you, a lot of us are looking at budget. If you can't match what we want to pay, because the rate of exchange is not helping at the moment, right? So CISOs and CIOs, we are looking at budget. We are looking at how we can save and not just spend money, because you could throw so much of money at this. But there's got to be criticalities that you also look at, is how will that solution help you? Does it fit your organization? Because not everything is going to fit everybody all the time. And we need to understand that you can't put in something that just because a bank has it and it's really important means that you as an SME have to have the same thing. Firstly, you might not be able to afford it. Secondly, you won't have the people to be able to sit back and solve the problems that come out of it. So you're just going to create noise. And then you have to look at, is it fit for my business to have at that moment? Do you have all the other checks and balances in place before you put it in? So I think looking at so many vendors, you've got to cut out a lot of the noise, and you need to see what works for you. What is your priorities inside your business? That's what's been my strategy.
So customized per the business requirements and per your threat landscape, fit for purpose. It's not one size fits all is certainly what I'm hearing. And that's great advice. Thanks, Nadia. A couple of more questions. Samir asking, what are the collaboration ways in Africa to spread awareness and professionality in the cybersecurity environment? You want to take that one, Sanjiv? You want to give it a go?
Try. Given the fact that I'm not there. But and I'd like you to collaborate on this answer. But what I know is that in terms of awareness, there are a lot of banks and financial organizations per se which have who do have a lot of such programs in place. But I think they can do more. So there needs to be, because I know it for a fact that every organization needs to have a it's mandated that they needs to make every employee aware about cybersecurity. So there's always a scope of improvement, and A, that needs to be done. B, there is a requirement, a lot of dialogue. A lot of such webinars should be there, like the one which we are doing right now. A lot of more conferences need to be there. A lot of more awareness initiatives, like maybe some roadshows or community engagement programs. Those kind of things should be done to create more awareness. And most of all, as a career, if we can push this at a school and a university level more, I'm not saying it's not being done, then that will increase the awareness all the more. So it's all about getting more into the community and having more such dialogues.
Awesome. So more into the community, absolutely. And perhaps you're raising a critical thing of what are we doing to educate the youth at a school level about this threat of cybersecurity? We know our kids, and I can talk for mine, albeit she's not in school anymore, but she's certainly on her phone and is active. She's no less a threat there for hacks and attacks than we are in the corporate environment. So how are we educating? I've got, if I'm not mistaken, I've got 2 minutes and I've got 2 questions. One of them is quite a tough one. The other one maybe not so much. But the first question is coming from William Makaba, saying, we have 23 young women who are doing a cybersecurity essential with Cisco. How can we help them with in-service training just for experience? And Nadia, do you want to perhaps pick up on that one? And certainly, William, I can tell you we could possibly have a separate conversation around that. But Nadia, do you want to perhaps hazard a shot at an answer?
Thanks, Gav. Yeah, I know that we're trying to get a lot of these people, not just ladies, but everybody into the organization, but we don't know about them. So I belong to CISO Alliances in South Africa, and I know that we're always looking to take on internships. There's a lot of people that are looking to take people on into their businesses. So please get in touch with myself or Lee Thomas from CISO Alliances, and I will most definitely put you in touch with the right people to be able to do that. Because 23 ladies, not, yeah.
Absolutely, and we certainly do help with that as well. It's part of what Impactful Specialist Solutions does, is we can certainly help lift those people, perhaps expand their knowledge beyond what you've done with Cisco, and look to find meaningful employment for them and act as a conduit to a hosting environment and an opportunity. We do that for our customers, and William, if that's a requirement, my hand is up for contact as well. And I can certainly, if I can ask the team online just to drop my contact details in the chat. And please feel free to reach out to me and I'll get my team on it ASAP. The last question, which I don't believe we're going to necessarily have time for, was the tough one, was what is the path to a CISO? And I'm conscious that we all but out of time at the top of the hour. And perhaps that's a question from you, Roxanne, that needs a separate answer, because I'm conscious that we're at the top of the hour. I want to respect everybody's time. And I want to wrap up and say thanks so much to you, Sanjiv, Nadia in particular, but most importantly to you, all of you that made the special effort to come and spend time with us today. Come and be with us, learn a little bit more about cybersecurity, for your great questions and for your great activities and contributions throughout the webinar. Thanks so much. Stay tuned. We're going to be doing more of these throughout the year, and we look forward to seeing you online sometime soon with us. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Have a great day.